Welcome to another day in the Matrix. This is Red Pill Podcast 162, the What I'm Investing In Part 4. Hope you're all having an amazing weekend so far and an amazing start to this new month of May. And if you're celebrating, happy Cinco de Mayo. I hope you're all doing amazing. I'm really excited to get into this one today. I'm going to be breaking down all of my investments, my entire investment thesis, as well as my updated portfolio. Some of you are well aware about my new investments that I've made last month, but for those of you that are newer here, I will be going over 10 new venture capital projects that I've recently added to my portfolio, bringing the total to somewhere around 23 altcoins. I am not sure if we'll get through every single chart today, but I do intend to, so this will be absolutely packed with gnosis. And as usual, before we get going, get relaxed, get calm, grab yourself a cup of coffee or tea if it's the morning time, or a glass of wine or beer if it's a little bit later out there and you're trying to get spicy. And again, welcome to Red Pill 162. If you are new here to the Wolfpack, welcome. It's so great to have you here with us. If you haven't gotten access to our Discord server yet, go ahead and send me a direct message here on Patreon with your Discord username, and I will reply back to you in a Patreon direct message with your Discord server invite to get you onboarded into our community group chat. Please don't comment or email me about this Discord access. I won't be able to help you out that way. You will need to personally message me directly on Patreon. And next week, we will be resuming our normal flow for the Red Pill, where we go over about 4 to 5 different altcoins that you guys vote on. So what I'll do for last week, for 2 out of the 4 to 5 altcoin votes that led the way in last week's poll, I'll be choosing those for next week, but still go ahead in the comment section below this Patreon post that you're in right now and submit a comment of the altcoin that you would like me to review next week. And just make sure it has at least 1 year of chart history. Make sure it's available on TradingView, and that way, if it gets the most votes, I will be selecting that for next week. Because today I'm covering about 20 plus projects, the odds are we don't need to review some of these things that are related to the coins that I'm talking about today. And what I mean by that is, let's get interesting next week. Go ahead and shill your favorite AI project or something weird. I think it would be cool to cover something that's not in the top 50 or maybe not in the top 100, just to, spice things up a little bit. But of course, it needs to have at least 1 year of chart history. If it has 2 or 3 years, even better. If it was trading before the C19 flash crash back in 2020, even better. That kind of just gives us enough data to work with so that we could thoroughly examine what's going on and share an in-depth technical analysis. Also today, since we had the FOMC meeting back on Monday, we could see a little bit of a drawdown, well, a pretty substantial drawdown actually for the crypto market into the day of that FOMC. And then after this FOMC, we've pivoted very bullish and we're back in the weekend, a typical weekend pump. Yay. It's so boring to me at this point, and it's so predictable, honestly. Just the way that this market moves, it has literally been designed to steal as much from the retail investor as humanly possible, because I know for a fact right now, all of this green that we're getting is just liquidating shorts. That's all it is. And also because it's a weekend and we're seeing a 1.5% move yesterday. Today we have 0.8%. This is telling me that it's important to realize that we are likely to get some drawback after we have the CME open a little bit later. So the Chicago Mercantile Exchange will be opening with the final 2 hours or so into our weekly close. And we will, of course, thoroughly recap the Bitcoin chart and everything that happened with our macro closures into the end of April as we've traded into May. I'll be covering all of that, but just to kind of let you know that this energy we're in right now is very much driven on narratives. It's very much the type of volatility to get retail to fall for the opposite of what they should be doing. And hopefully here at the Wolfpack, you've all been taking advantage of this corrective phase that we've been in since the April 8th solar eclipse. As you can see, this marked a very pivotal point in the charts, and we've been on a effectively 28-day downtrend since. This is micro data, of course, and we're also still stuck in the same horizontal trading range since we entered it almost 70 days ago. This is all opportunity, and I covered a lot of this in the last What I'm Investing in Special Part 3. I'll be recapping some of that stuff today. But I really think what we've been covering here over the past 2 months has been above and beyond what most have been focusing on, because we've been able to time a lot of this stuff. It's not about being perfect. I myself am definitely not perfect about any of this stuff, and that's not my desire. It's about just being profitable as long as possible without taking any losses or without putting yourself into any rug pulls or getting caught up in the FOMO and buying tops. This is all the kind of stuff that typical retail investors fall for. So you must have your own investment thesis. I had my own investment thesis, which was to start off the bull run initially de-risking some of my Bitcoin so that I could roll that over into venture capital. And that's exactly what I did. I de-risked at 47 and 54K Bitcoin and waited patiently through the FOMO phase. And then after a majority of these altcoins lost about 40 to 50%, I went ahead and started accumulating, putting those Satoshis into venture capital, which I know has way more upside potential, given that for Bitcoin to do a double from its current top at 74K, it's highly theoretical that we make it up that high. Do I think we will? Yes, but it's still playing on something that is highly theoretical to just consider a 140, 150K Bitcoin, whilst I have a higher degree of certainty, which I'm not trying to use that loosely. I mean, I am a professional technical analyst and professional trader at the end of the day, so I have skin in the game. And I say this with that level of experience. It's not to flex, but to be more of a leader here. I know that I'm very likely to get way more than 100% in every single altcoin that I just put myself into. Probably 1,000%, probably 2,000% in some instances. So the strategy of de-risking the Bitcoin and putting it into that stuff was a strategy. It wasn't trying to sell the top. That was never the intent, because I always had a feeling that a 6-digit Bitcoin is likely in this cycle. Could we be going up much higher? Sure. But we have to look at everything synergistically, with syncretism involved. And of course here we're adding in the esoteric, the gematria, numerology, and astrology to make sense of it all, whilst most are kind of just falling for narratives. So I'm feeling great about how everything has turned out since the start of the year. Truthfully, I am as calm as can be. I'm feeling very good in how I've navigated everything thus far. The portfolio is looking a lot more balanced today, which I think is also important for people to realize. Remind yourselves, I got into Bitcoin below 10K back in 2020. I know some people that were actually hiring me for consultations back in 2020 and 2021 that got into Bitcoin back in 2014, 2015. So it's all about where you're at in all of this, you know? And that's what I've been hoping that everyone realizes here. It's not about selling the top. It's not about buying the bottom. It's about having a strategy and a plan, because cycles change over time and things adjust, right? And that's what matters most. If you were somebody who got into Bitcoin at $200, pretty much everything you've been seeing lately is insane compared to the amount of ROI that you would get in the traditional markets, for instance, and in the same time horizon. Geez, right? Bitcoin does in one bull cycle what it would take the indices to do in 10, 20 years. So that's why I'm looking at it the way I'm looking at it, and that's why I am analyzing everything the way that I'm analyzing it, and I've planned accordingly. So you're all well aware of this. Some of you might be new here, and it's kind of news to some, but all in all, everything's going smoothly. Everything's going great. I'm really happy about my investment thesis at this time and the way everything's going. And today we're just going to wrap up, kind of recap some of the things that happened in the last What I'm Investing in Special Part 3, and then kind of add some newer data. But really, to kick things off, I want to talk about some of the decoding stuff as usual, and then we'll move into all of these altcoins that I have to share. Of course, I'll be going over my portfolio breakdown as well. Okay. All right. So to quickly recap the last decode I shared in Red Pill 161, I brought up the significance of the number 49. So the 49 code and how it's been significant for the past 4 years since C19 was declared a pandemic, and how until May 10th, which is coming up next week, equals 49 months in between. So from C19 being declared a pandemic, which started right after the 49ers lost the Super Bowl against the Chiefs, then we have here 49 months later into May 10th. It would be the last day before it switches to 50. And this year, in the year 2024, we had the 49ers also lose the recent Super Bowl. And we were kind of using this story, this exoteric story, and the symbolism behind it, and kind of mapping out the deeper meaning that we're getting here from these exoteric sporting events. And this will also be the case when we have the upcoming Summer Olympics. So keep that in mind, and I'll be sharing some of my thoughts on that. This year, I don't know if I can, because I just don't know my timing and my schedule coming up with everything I have planned. I have this decoding crypto blueprint coming out. I also am planning to launch WatersAbove University sometime this year, and I have the new installments of the decoding mastermind course, the Trinity Masterclass, for instance. So I have so much on my plate. I'm still, working with private clients. I still take consultation calls. So I am stretched pretty thin right now, but if I can, I will decode the symbolism of the opening ceremony of this upcoming Paris Summer Olympics. So if any of you are interested in that, I'll get around to it. I think that might be more interesting than putting any prana into decoding any sporting events. Honestly, I really could care less about that right now. We're in a bull run and the money's to be made here. So I rather put all the energy I possibly can right now into just navigating this cycle, because it's something that comes around once every 4 years. And yeah, I mean, we're talking about life-changing opportunity here. So I'm avoiding the distractions at all costs. Now, if you're somebody who's into that kind of stuff, I'm not telling you to avoid those things. I'm not calling them a distraction for you. If that's your purpose and that's your thing and you're passionate about that, that's beautiful. I support that. I would never speak against it for you. I'm just speaking for me right now. And as a leader doing what I'm doing, this is how I feel. Just being transparent. Not trying to judge, not trying to push, project my personal interests onto what yours are, right? I want to be very clear about that. I actually welcome the sports decoders here. I welcome those who are into doing typical astrology and astrology readings and looking at astrology. I love all of that stuff. I think it's dope. I think it's great to have that eclectic nature in the community, but I'm being very clear with you. Why I don't put energy into certain things is because I'm very focused on certain things at certain times. And I think, if anything, that could be very influential for those that are trying to step into the new, higher level of whatever it is that they're doing in any capacity, whether that be an entrepreneur or a leader to your family, to your community. And the hardest way to lead in this world is when you're distracted. Never forget that. So you have this 49 concept. We brought it up several times, and we have a couple days before May 10th, still within this 49-month time frame. It will be May 7th and May 8th, which are the new moon. Kind of, you could call it either day, May 7th or May 8th. A new moon in Taurus, in tropical, and in sidereal, the sun is still in Aries until around May 14th. So I've brought this idea up several times about this war energy and the war narrative. And we had back on April 13th, the day that I made those new venture capital plays, this event in Israel. Some more conversation is loading up as we speak, with Russia now coming back into the mix. So I do feel that May is another month for there to be a war event, and I'll cover more into that a little bit later. But this theme of the time frame into the new moon on May 10th seems to be powerful, and the fact that we're still in sidereal Aries all the way until May 14th might be a story here. Of course, tying in the idea that Aries tied to Mars, god of war. And this is interesting because we've been tracking the May full moon analysis for the year of the dragon, and how every year of the dragon we see lows around the late May into early June timeframe. And this would be within the sign of Taurus in sidereal astrology. Taurus is the bull. So it seems this is a pivotal time frame in the first half of sidereal Taurus, as you can see right here. The first half of sidereal Taurus seems to be a bottoming out energy and getting ready for the bull to reset. Then from mid to late June into July, the market returns to a bullish phase with potential price discovery for Bitcoin. I believe could be very much centered around that time. And I'm talking about true price discovery, not this couple days above the all-time high nonsense that we just recently experienced. It's obvious now that that was all a trap, considering we moved up to new all-time highs for a couple days, got about 6 or 7% above them, huge rejection, and then into what just happened on May 1st has now sealed the deal that was, I don't want to say this to flex, but like iconic analysis. It was in the complete opposite direction of what the herd was believing. Everyone thought we would just keep going, and everyone every day would bring up a new chart about the Bitcoin ETF inflows, and I was not going to let that shit get to me. That's a distraction, all right? We just saw Bitcoin come all the way down to 56K, and it's been sideways for almost 2.5 months now, okay? That's not price discovery. I'm sorry. What real price discovery is when you're waking up every day and you just see this thing going boom, boom, boom to the upside. I'll show you what price discovery looks like. You go to Bitcoin back in 2020, 2021, right there at the end. This is price discovery. That's it right there, that phase. Just straight breakthrough above all-time highs. You see that right there is the past all-time highs? This is price discovery, not this. Chopping around the prior double top. For 70 days. Yeah. Although, seemingly triple top if we were to break lower, and that would be an incredibly bullish structure, but I'm bullish regardless of how all of this turns out, and I'll get to the TA later. So, getting back to this. Just wanted to share that this late June into July, the market could very well be in its next bullish phase with potential price discovery for Bitcoin, and this would be a signal for the next leg of the bull run. So based on all the data we've collected, it seems the true price discovery phase for Bitcoin is likely to be at least a little under 2 months or so from today, early July. It could happen sooner, of course, because we see that every drop for Bitcoin gets bought right back up very quickly. As you can see over the past couple of days with Bitcoin dropping to 56,000, let me show you on this chart here, Bitcoin dropping to 56,000 and then returning right back to where it was a couple days prior to that correction. This is an obvious sign that we're in a bull run, right? We can't deny that. That's a truth. And seeing true price discovery for Bitcoin within the month of June, trading into July would be in alignment with past iterations for our bull cycle as well. So, although Bitcoin did in fact hit a new all-time high in March, the whole time it felt off because it was narrative driven based off the Bitcoin ETF and BlackRock being the talk of the town every single day. And now we're almost 70 days into this trading range between 60 to 70K. And still many top altcoins, including Ethereum, Binance, BNB, Solana, etc., are below prior all-time highs. Still, these top altcoins have yet to do what Bitcoin has done by getting that additional 7% up above prior all-time highs. And many of the top 50 altcoins are still far away from retesting prior cycle highs. As I've said many times, we are not in an alt season. It's just, nobody could argue this. Now, until we have Bitcoin price discovery and likely another surge in Bitcoin dominance, we will not have an alt season. And I've been saying that since the beginning of the year, even with the Bitcoin ETFs being approved and launched in the first couple weeks of January. And as of today, in early May, it's still the case. So we also reviewed the total altcoin market cap charts several times recently, showing how we still have about 60 to 70% room to retesting prior cycle highs. Let me just quickly show you this. We have over here the prior cycle, we have where we're trading at right now, and that's exactly around 70%. Now, I also drew these red lines out because these were pullback targets, and any time total 3 was to get back to these levels, it was a buy. And we saw that come in on May 1st. So I hope for those of you that were aware of this analysis, you took action. I'm not saying that this pullback is 100% over yet. I'm not saying it's impossible for us to go a little bit lower, but this is really playing with fire if you're starting to get greedy to the downside. And that's been another thing I've been warning about, even in my text update posts. I've been saying, do not get greedy to the downside. That is a very normal way for retail to get fleeced during a bull run and miss out on opportunities. The same thing with trying to sell right now. It's getting too fancy. Like, nobody should be messing around and trying to get fancy right now unless you're an absolute professional and know what the hell you're doing. If you know the game you're playing. Most people don't know the game. They don't even know the rules. They're just following blindly somebody's opinion, and that gets a lot of the time. Yeah, that's why people are not able to take advantage of these cycles. When you add up everything I just said and you include emotions, yeah, it's a recipe for disaster. And here I'm trying to get people to be aware that it's not about predicting. It's not about making calls. It's about having an awareness so that you can situate yourself effectively in a positive, position to not be buying at the top of the fucking bull run and to not be, trying to aim for lower when we're at the bottom of the bear market. Too much of that has been common throughout this whole past 2 cycles that I've now traded through, and I've learned even my own mistakes, and this time around I'm starting to see how I'm much different in this cycle than I was in the last one. My emotions are really under control in this one. I'm not like trying to be perfect about it. I'm just trying to stay profitable. I'm not getting sucked into any of the shiny object stuff. And I do know that there's a ton of ROI in the shit coins and the meme coins. I get it. If you like to play that game, have fun. But I cannot even begin to explain how many rug pulls there has been since just the past 3 to 4 months. People reaching out to me being like, I've been rugged 5 times already. And I'm like, why are you playing with that dog shit then? Like, have a better investment thesis. Stop falling for all this memery. But that's what people want. They want these crazy, 1,000,000% gains in a couple weeks, but they don't understand how to actually do the play. It just doesn't work like that. It's like traveling to the Himalayan mountains, to like Mount Everest, and not having any fucking training before starting the climb. You're gonna make it up a little bit and not even know how to breathe up there. You're gonna have frostbite on your toes. Does this make sense? I hope this kind of paints a picture for people. But anyways, let's move on. We talked about this 60 to 70% above us to get just back to prior cycle highs on total 2 and total 3. Now, what this means is we still have time to accumulate. It's fucking great news. We still have time to accumulate discounted altcoins. Likely even until the month of June in some cases, depending on the chart we're analyzing, of course. And don't worry, we'll be reviewing many charts during today's Red Pill, at least 20. But before we move into that, let's revisit a potentially important date we've been tracking for some time now, and that's May 10th, connecting to both the year 1940, which was the year of the dragon during World War II, and 1941, which had the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction in Taurus. I've been talking about this a lot lately, especially since the conversation I had with Sama, and perhaps me and him will get back together sometime later this month to just see how this all turned out. Also considering that on May 9th of 1941 was the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction, and the day later, the day after, we had this big event between the bombing of London and the bombing of Hamburg, Germany. Now, that was just 24 hours after the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction, and we already had a negative event. Now we're approaching May 10th very soon, and that's why I've been preparing us all for that. If there's going to be an event, it's likely to be something war-driven. And the dates surrounding that would be a build-up in the energy. And I'm considering May 8th it could be something very powerful. Let me break down some of the notes here because it's within the 49 months since C19. Again, check out the last red pill for the decode covering the significance of that finding. And this May 8th is also the new moon. It lands on a Wednesday, miércoles, Mercury day, Mercury, god of fiat money, money created out of thin air, the prince of the power of the air. It's make-believe, fairy dust, and that's also what crypto is. So it's all tied together. And we've also shown this in the code with Mercury giving you this 23 in Chaldean, and we also have Bitcoin giving you the 23 in Chaldean. We have Mercury giving you this 103 in English ordinal. That's the 27th prime number. That 27 ties back to Jupiter, his daddy, which also ties back to Ripple. And that's all coded together. We have Mercury giving you the 40 in the same cipher as Ripple, and that's all this is. The eagle is Mercury. Mercury is the current financial system we have. It is debt-based. It's make-believe. They call it fiat. It's actually pronounced fiat, because you need to fight for it. That's all it is. It's a race. That's why they call the color of our skin your race. It's sick. It's a sick world. It's just, you got to learn about it. The more you learn about it and the more stoic you are in navigating it all, you start to see people and see things for their energy rather than just their physical. But you have to be aware of the energy that's behind money and the markets and understand its spiritual components in order for you to master it. Anyways, I hope this little tangent on Mercury was educational in some way. So we also have this being 33 days since Satoshi's last birthday, and that 33 is powerful number of transmutation. So you can see 33 days after. And this was Satoshi's 49th birthday, again bringing in that key number 49 again. And since this is the Gregorian 5/8 date, 58, and we've been tying in this element of the exoteric sporting event of the Super Bowl. Well, the last Super Bowl was Super Bowl 58, where the Chiefs beat the 49ers in a rematch of the 2020 Super Bowl, which the Chiefs also won, showing a similar energy. And if we connect the date of the last Super Bowl, which was on the 11th of February this year, and I want to do this now, it's a little bit kind of like taking it slightly and showing you some other elements, so please hang in there with me, but I want to show you this. If we take this date and we connect it to the date of May 9th, remember we were talking about Super Bowl 58, this was the day of Super Bowl 58, and this is the day that lands with a 58 double-digit date numerology, and I'll touch on that in a second, but I want to show you how they're 89 days apart. 89 is the 24th prime number. 24 is the key number of our year this year. It is the mirror of the number 42, which the Super Bowl was on the 42nd day of the year. Also, this number 42 and 24 show up directly with crypto because of Satoshi Nakamoto. In Gematria, we have Satoshi Nakamoto equaling 89, 24th prime. I just showed you the 89 between the days. 89, and also the 181, which is the 42nd prime, and this Super Bowl was on the 42nd day of the year. Now this is very powerful because this Super Bowl 58 was the 42nd day of the year, 24 code, and we're in the year of the dragon, and Satoshi turned 49 right after the 49ers lost, and the moment after that Super Bowl was over, like literally the moment it ended, Bitcoin immediately hit $49,000, and this was Super Bowl 58. Now, this is big. I think there's some code here. I'm not like 100% certain if it's going to be a mimic of the last 2 years I brought up, which was May 10th, this 1940 and 1941 year, which has the similarities that I've already explained, or it's this day right here, because there's one other element. We have, well, there's several other elements, but remember before I was telling you about Wednesday, Mercury Day, well, this is Thursday, Thor's Day, Jupiter Day. The Jupiter sign symbol is the 24. Everything is about this 24. 89 days apart. It's the 24th prime number connected to the 42nd day in the year 2024. This will also have the 58 tied to the 58 Super Bowl. There you go. And a 22 standard date numerology. That 22 ties into the dragon. We have that right here. We're in the year of the dragon, and we're talking about May 9th. And here you have the 5-9 date. This is the 5-9 code, the dragon. This is big. I think this is a very powerful set of codes we've been analyzing right now. And when you see the 58 and the 22, that also ties back into XRP. XRP has the 58 and 22 right next to each other in English ordinal and full reduction. 58 is 5 times 8 equals 40 is Ripple. We have 40 right there too. And I showed you that with Mercury as well. And we have a lot of connections here. I mean, it's pretty much undeniable how many things have added up for this specific date. So the fact that in 1940 and 1941, we already had some triggering events around this time, it doesn't shock me because we're seeing a lot of similarities in the way they project. One moment. All right. So one other thing to mention, because we were talking about the 22 and we were talking about Dragon with the 22, well, we're also still within the 22-year anniversary of 9/11. We will be within the 22 years until September 11th of this year. We're in May. So consider that 22. It's the master builder, master destroyer number. So it seems very important, especially for this year, because we have the 22nd week of the year being on May 27th through June 2nd, and that's at the end of May. And I've been talking so much about how this is typically the time frame when we see the market bottoming out. The energy for the stock market starts to kind of finish its selling pressure, and it continues up throughout the end of June into July into August. I actually initially mentioned the 22nd into 24th week of the year time frame in the year of the dragon decoded. I put a lot of emphasis on that, so definitely go rewatch that if you haven't already. I mean, you can see how powerful it is now that we had the April 15th ritual, the fire ritual that I called out way in advance with the Copenhagen Stock Exchange. And I talked about specifically how it would not shock me to have a Notre Dame-like event. And they're literally calling this Copenhagen Stock Exchange their Notre Dame. And it was on the exact same dates. So this is clearly a simulated, scripted reality. And we just have to kind of connect the dots here if we want to realize how to take advantage of it all. But that was symbolism. I told you guys with the burning of the Copenhagen Stock Exchange, it's symbolism that it's the end of the stock exchange as we know it, and we're moving into the new stock exchange, which will be tokenized. This will be part of the quantum system. So the old is being replaced for the new. Think of it that way. That's the symbolic meaning behind it all. Okay. So we were talking about this 22nd to 24th week. That perfectly aligns with the end of sidereal Taurus, making the 25th week of the year in alignment with the sun moving into Gemini, the twins, in sidereal astrology. Of course, with the astrological concept of Taurus being the bull, this affects markets in several ways, but my personal take on it that I shared earlier is that it is a reset of the bull. It's like the bull needs time to recharge and reset before continuation. So there we have it. Keep between now and the new moon into May 7th and 8th, and this pivot date of May 10th in mind, with 1940 and 1941 both having big developments in the war, notably 1940, May 10th, Year of the Dragon. We also have the synchronicity between the Gregorian and the Hebrew calendar for this year and 1940. That's crazy. I mean, to have it synchronized like that is literally so rare. It's like undeniable how powerful that connection alone is. And these were May 10th, 1940 and May 10th, 1941 were big developments in World War II. And the war narrative. And as we're currently in this war narrative now with Russia, Israel, and Hamas, this is why I'm keeping this all in mind, as you're aware. And the fact we've seen the deepest part of the pullback for the stock market into late May or early June, this could very well be the end of any discounted buying opportunities for the remainder of the bull run. As I've said many times, that this wasn't worth waiting for. I also mentioned that prior in many posts that I wasn't going to wait for this time frame. I shared many posts telling everyone the same, not to wait. That's why back on April 13th with that Iran drone attack on Israel, I took advantage right away. Right away. Even though it was a Saturday and the stock market was closed, I immediately took action, opened about 10 new venture capital positions. I'm going to be covering those in a moment. And I wasn't worried about catching the perfect bottom, as I'm never concerned with catching the perfect top. For me, it's all about getting positioned, because the waiting game could paralyze most new investors, as the FOMO energy does the same thing as well. It's designed to confuse you and keep you in your emotions. But here we're all about staying calm and responding whilst the majority is reacting. And I feel confident about all the entries I made recently on my venture capital positions. And if we get another big correction, of course I'd consider to continue building my positions. But for now, I'm effectively positioned and not really looking for too many new opportunities unless they present themselves. So let's quickly review the portfolio and then we will continue into the charts. So just a quick portfolio breakdown. I'll type this out for everyone. We have 30% BTC, and I'll make this a little bit larger for you all. Also hope you are enjoying today's red pill, and I appreciate you tuning in. This is sort of rounded right now because it doesn't even need to be perfect anyways. It's just giving you a rounded amount so you can kind of see what's happening. Okay, so we have about 20%. We have about 20% Bitcoin, excuse me, let me clean this up really quickly so I could show you. I just wanted to type this all out so you guys could see it very clearly. All right. So we have about 30% Bitcoin in the long-term portfolio. We have 20% XRP, making it effectively my second biggest position. And then we have 15% Ethereum, as well as 35% venture capital, covering around 20 miscellaneous altcoins, ranging from about a max of 3 to 4% per position, max, with the majority of the positions being around 2 to 3% to be more specific. So venture capital means it is stuff that I'm willing to watch go to zero. I could put enough money in it in such a small amount that if it completely fails and gets rug pulled, I don't really care. It's the amount of money that I'm willing to absolutely lose, all right? So it's a risk. It's me not really getting too worried about the big swings, because there will be opportunities for some of these altcoins to lose 60 to 70% mid-cycle. All right. And I've talked about this many times. We've had many altcoins do this. I'll bring up one example. Good example. So we have VeChain here. We have the prior cycle. We have this move from here to here. It was literally 60% correction before having its final move to the upside. All right. That's just one. Look at Theta. Right here. Look at this. 60% correction, backup phase, and then Mamma mia, it went up 7,500%. This shit happens, and that's why you want to play venture capital, because this move right here is almost the entire move that Bitcoin had in its full bear market. 77% from absolute top to absolute bottom. But Theta did this in the middle of a recovery phase. Most people aren't ready for that, and I talked about that a lot with these Shiba Inus and other meme coins, you know? I'm not anti them, by the way. You do you, boo-boo. But for me, like, I'm not big on getting into this without some knowledge and awareness that it might go to zero. We never know. We've seen this happen with stuff that has big communities, by the way. Like, I mean, no offense, and I'm not trying to take a cheap shot at anyone, but Hex is a great example of powerful community, big, like expansive community in many ways. They seem to be working together. Like, they're not all degens. I do respect some of the people that I've met throughout my time connecting with them, but like this project has done the complete opposite of what a lot of the rest of the market is doing. And I think if I was to bring up the Pulse chart, so PHEX, for instance, it's really no different. I mean, let me show you, just to give an example. Big community. Look at this. What's going on here, man? What's going on here? They said that if everyone left this thing, EHEX, and migrated over to PHEX, that everything would be okay. And initially that was working out. And then you have this big correction since. It's a 67% mid-cycle correction, but it's still down effectively. It's 80% almost from prior highs. So this is all speculation, high-level speculation. You got to be careful with this stuff. So I'm explaining venture capital right now. Hex is venture capital. It should have never been anything else. Going all in on shit like this would have been a suicide attempt, clearly. Be careful, man. Be careful out there, guys. You know, I know that some people get lucky. Luck is cool, but luck isn't skill. Luck isn't talent. Luck has nothing to do with sustainability. Luck is quick, short, and most of the time devastating. Because once you get lucky, you feel you'll stay lucky. And then that's where you go from being in the gambling casino smiling to in the gambling casino drinking yourself into a pill-induced slumber. I've seen it happen in so many different forms. It's sad, but it's because they're not aware how to play the venture capital game properly. And I'm exposing how to do it right now. All right. So this 35% of my portfolio that I talked about, it's venture capital, but it's me spreading it out into 20 different positions that are all made up of 2 to 3%. All right. I'm not worried if one of them drops out because I still have the remaining 32% of my portfolio. It's fine. The only way this would really, really harm me is if I was to have an absolute collapse of the whole altcoin market. But now what I decided with my venture capital positions was to put myself into stuff that I feel pretty good about their charts. And let's start off with Dogecoin. I know this sounds crazy. It's a meme coin to many, but it is effectively the only coin that has continued to get to its 1618 on every cycle. So we have here a fib pull on Dogecoin, swing high to swing low. We got the 1618 on a wick. Here we have from this cycle, swing high to swing low, fib. We hit the 1618, had a small backup phase, and then went even higher. So the second cycle did better than the first. That's madness. Like, how can anybody deny how sick that is? I'm not trying to be a Dogecoin, D-rider. It's just, it is what it is. It's the facts in these charts, and I'm never going to deny the facts if they're right in front of my eyes. So I decided to recently open a venture capital position. I got in at 13 cents. So I got here, which was right on the pump up into March and all of these wicks to the downside. So I feel pretty good, like, on my entry. Now, if Doge was to move even deeper and get into this 11, 12 cent range again, I think that's an absolute gift. But for now, I'm feeling good because from my entry of around 13 cents into prior all-time high is 500%. And because it has always hit the 1618, it's giving me a decent level of confidence that it's possible again. And that's around a $4 Doge. So if we were at this level of around 13 cents on the entry, let me put it at 14. We're looking at 2,700% to the top. Now, I'm not sure how clean that move will go because Doge is a speculative altcoin that very much has these blow-off tops. It is what it is. So I wouldn't put my sell order at $4. I would put it below that. I'd probably put it closer to $3 in case something like this happens where we barely touch the 1618 and then I bet this was like a 60% correction too. Okay, 52% from that top to that bottom. Imagine watching a 52% correction right here. How many people actually probably tried making a fancy move and missed out on this whole thing? So yeah, you got to be, I don't like using that term missed out. I really don't mean that. It's just, I bet most people didn't get in down here. Most people probably got in around here and they weren't aware of this next leg up. Same thing happened effectively over here, where you have this shoot up into price discovery followed by a deeper correction. That's 80% before it took that last leg up into the 1618. So I'm feeling good about the 1618, and I need to do a deeper decode on Dogecoin, which, by the way, Dogecoin will be thoroughly decoded in my crypto decoding blueprint that I'm about to release, hopefully sometime this month. And that's going to be the great, the best time for me to break down some of the price targets and some of my ideas behind that. But for now, let's get into some of the shorter term TA. We have a couple of trend lines I have drawn out, one of which is what would I call this? Like a ray starting from this pivot point here, which was like the absolute bottom, into this whole moment of support, which lasted about 50 days. And I just decided to extend this ray in the event that we trap sideways here on Doge and do have a deeper correction. I believe this would be as low as it gets. I believe the last time I covered Doge is when I added in these yellow trend lines for everyone. Is kind of like a level of the deepest part of the pullback. We've already swiped through it multiple times, so it's been triggered. It's fine. If anyone had limit orders there, you're a legend. And even if it went to 11 cents, who the hell cares? I mean, it's literally unimportant. It doesn't matter. So yeah, this whole idea of us coming into this point around 11, chop, retest down to this trend line, chopped again, held, and now we're gravitating back up to it, and we're seeing resistance. It's making me feel that this could be another resistance to like keep in mind. Now, all I want to share that will simplify this a lot is it's between the 382 and the 0.5 fib. That's about as important as it gets, because you could all pull a fib really quickly from swing high to swing low. Make sure to double click, make sure that the style is put at the bottom, this check mark fib levels based on log scale. And while we're trapped below the 0.5 fib, that's still buying opportunity. It's not the best. I love the 382 is like my supreme buying opportunity. Anything below the 382 is glorious, but that was all the bear market phase. Now we're moving into like the first phase of the bull run for Dogecoin on this Doge chart, and it's now getting its first big mid-cycle correction within the first phase of the bull run. So it's setting up for its next phase, and it needs to clear this chop between the 382 and the 0.5. Once it could cement clear like monthly candle closures, etc., into the 0.5 to 618 territory, that's when we would anticipate the next move up, and it would probably swipe straight to the 40 cent area, right into the golden pocket. So from here at 12 cents, 13 cents into just that move right there is still outpacing the stock market probably the last 5 years. Seriously. That's how much opportunity there still is in these altcoins. Still a 200% move from where we're getting in to the next likely level. So that's, again, great. Also, we have chart data in the past that proves this is a solid play to speculate on. Likely to not go to zero, I should say. Let's get into sand. We're going to rapid fire through some of these because it's just isn't enough of an update. So here with sand, we had a little bit of resistance again at this level that I had drawn out, which it goes back pretty much to the genesis of this project. And we've recently broke back below the 236. That is a huge opportunity if this can now recover. So that's a big if, and that's why it has to be venture capital. Because if we take from where we're trading at now to the prior all-time highs is 1,700%. That's insane. If we just go back to all-time highs, you're getting a 1,700% return off of today's trading range before Bitcoin goes into price discovery. Now, I'm going to be conservative here, and I'm going to share that it's more likely that we make it up to the 702 as the next big upside target, which would put you around $3. Banking on this thing to go retest all-time highs, or if even go into price discovery, is a very big ask. But if this was to pull off a magic trick and go all the way up to the 1618, we're talking about a 15,000% move. We know that's not impossible, because if we take over this horizontal range and we go to the all-time highs, that was an 18,000% move. It's not like it hasn't done something like this before. And also, one thing to mention is that we are still down 95% from prior all-time highs. And also, this thing is on almost 900 days since the all-time high. So it's really kind of finishing off its final moments before it goes into like a Wyckoff SOS, a sign of strength phase. And that, again, I told you would be somewhere into the 0.5, into the 0.618, upwards of $3 on sand. And that right there is a move of still about 500%. Years and years of what you would be waiting on in the traditional markets. So this is a highly speculative play for me. I believe it's only about 1% of my portfolio. It's more for fun. It's not a huge risk. Now we're going to Gala. This is an identical situation in regards to my portfolio. I'm not putting too much in it. I'm just kind of playing it for where it's at in the cycle, which is between the 382 and the 236. Getting in around this level and retesting prior all-time highs is the same as sand. So I don't have too much to say about this. It's sort of the same data. You know, we're talking the same amount of percentage to the upside, and it's in a similar, it's actually slightly higher regarding the fib pull, but kind of in many ways similar. So it's my hedge in a sense, but just having fun playing with this particular sector. And anything above this yellow line right here would signal probably an explosive move, most likely an explosive move for Gala. So from here to the next higher resistance level is 1,000%. Somewhere around 800 to 1,000%. It's a huge move to get out of something that we don't even need it to go into price discovery. One of the reasons why I picked this one. Let's go over to AMP, another very speculative altcoin play. From here, where we're at, up to this prior cycle top, it's about 1,400%. That's similar to the last chart I shared. So you guys are seeing why I'm picking these things, right? It's because I don't want to bank on price discovery this cycle. I want to get involved in stuff with small percentages that I'm willing to go to zero that can potentially pull off a 10x. That's the name of the game. I'm never going to FOMO into shit that's already up and already the buying pressure is exhausted. That's silly. You want to get involved in stuff where there's a lot of upside potential. And remember, this is all speculation anyways. Even the best white paper and best dev team and best creative directors and all the people that are behind the project, and they could have all the partnerships and all the things going on in the world. It does not mean that it's going to have some crazy speculative bull run. We've watched absolute shit coins with no working technology, no actual dev team behind them do crazy moves. So with venture capital, you're really just kind of playing the game instead of letting the game play you. Hope that makes sense. So this is another reason of adding AMP to the play of my VC play. Got a little bit overheated over here. It's likely to get a mid-cycle correction. This thing had a 70% mid-cycle correction already in its first phase into the bull run. Now it's holding steady on the 382, which is looking positive, and it will likely be somewhat of a backup phase. So something like this. And who knows what it could do into Q4. All right, sorry about that. Let me see, my levels are good. All right. So keeping this AMP play in mind, very small position for me, nothing crazy. Now we're moving on to Algorand, Algo. Also actually quite similar to the chart that we were just looking at a couple moments ago. I believe the sand chart, similar in that way. One thing that is alarming though about Algorand is that it is trading around the C19 lows. So I don't love this chart. I really don't. This is me preparing for the importance of ISO 222 compliance and nothing more really, because this chart looks like dog shit. I'm being for real with you. Horrible chart. It's playing on the not so exoteric narrative that will become a very exoteric narrative. Now we're looking at about a 1,100% move to prior all-time highs to this first cycle top, still about 800%. So all of these rejections over here, 1, 2, 3, followed by all of this attempted support and this final rejection over here. it's making me feel pretty good that there's a chance at algo going back to $1.75 without much narrative or anything positive behind it, just purely off of the whole alt season energy going down. So solid play in that regards. If we can make it back up to the 888 fib, geez, be a crazy play compared to what's going on in traditional markets, of course. And if it was to break into price discovery, I'm not entirely sure I could be sold on a $20 Algorand, but we do see in some cases altcoins like to get slightly above prior all-time highs, like an additional 100% above all-time highs we've seen all the time in prior cycle as well. So a $5 algo, if that was the case, then we're talking about a move of 2,000%. And I've said this a couple times that 2,000% is about what we see on a standard venture capital move. And that would be measuring somewhere around the lows of the last cycle to where the peak is after the end of the alt season. Now we're moving into Multiverse X, EGLD. This is another chart that I was not super happy with, but we had a crazy last cycle in this one where you can see after April, it just went up in a straight line, 3,000%, followed by a 80% mid-cycle correction, and then finished off with another 8,000%. So all up from this horizontal trading range here, not counting the black swan and V-shaped recovery, we're talking about the 40,000% move. So similar to Theta. Crazy, fucking crazy. Now where we're at, I decided to get in because I saw this like broadening megaphone pattern. I'm not the biggest on patterns. I don't really think they matter that much, but I saw this pattern developing, and where it pivoted and the way that it pivoted out and then traded on the outside of this prior resistance, followed by this recent pullback, I said to myself, I got to get in. So we had a bearish M pattern. Then we had this back test here at the outside of this trend line. And then we also have this longer term trend line that could very well be in play from the end of this backup phase over to here to the bottom of the bear market into what could very well be this similar kind of stage. I mean, if I adjusted it, if I really wanted to adjust this shit, I feel like it would be good enough. So I decided to take advantage of that. I don't know if this thing could go much lower. If it is $33 is kind of like a steal, I suspect, because of where it will go in price discovery for Bitcoin. Once Bitcoin gets into that energy, I do feel that this level right here that I drew, the white line, is crucial. And if we could get above that white line or above the 702 fib, I mean, it's thin air. Thin air between $200 and $500. So the reason I drew this white line is a rejection, hold, and then rejection, come up. Getting rejected here twice was a big GTFO symbol, because after that we just fell over. So gravitating back up to that is a 500% move from where we're at now, and retesting prior all-time highs from where we are now is 1,200%. So incredible opportunity there if we were to retest prior all-time highs, and then price discovery, you're talking about 2,500% plus. So moving over to Jupe, obvious reason why I got into this is because we're in the year of the X, the year of 24, and we have the Jupiter symbol being the 24, and we see the way this thing launched off the gate into the April eclipse. We've started to get a little bit of a corrective phase, which was needed, and where we're correcting on Jupiter is around the golden pocket. So I had the swing high to swing low fib pull. By the way, this is very similar to the way that Polkadot launched back at the beginning of last season, the last alt season, the last alt cycle. Very similar, actually. Apologies, one moment. So yeah, we had to have this correction. It was needed, getting above this 1618. You see the daily close below, rejection, couple daily closes above, but still all these rejections. And then this led to the deeper pullback on April 13th, and that was actually the day that I purchased it. And I think I got in pretty much as low as it gets. Yeah, I got in at 77 cents, and it went to 75. Fuck. All right, so that was pretty damn well timed. Everything is looking pretty solid on this. I don't mind if this thing even comes a little bit lower or starts filling in these wicks to these tails to the downside, somewhere into the 80-cent range. But if it chops around here, this is all back up before it moves into the next part of the bull run. And I suspect $3 to $4 would be where it's likely to go. If it follows any gematria stuff, then we could have that $4.20 pull off. $4.20. I mean, we really have to see, though. This thing could go much higher if it wants to have another fib. Yeah, no, I mean, that would make sense. Is this turned off? Yeah, okay, so that's smart that I did it that way. Yeah, because it's just a short term. I don't have it in logarithmic, I have it in linear. So yeah, not too much to speak about this, though, because there's not enough chart history. I'm just giving you some of my thoughts and why I got in the esoteric meaning. Okay, now we have XDC, which was one that I waited on for a while, real long time. And I was waiting for it to break below this trend line, which now it's starting to look like real shitty in a lot of ways, but we've now come back into this 236 territory, and that could effectively be as low as we get. But this had a strange mid-cycle jolt to the upside, almost at the 702, which would be your automatic rally. And now we're moving into like the finality of what I would imagine is the LPS, the last point of support or the last point of supply. Just shaking out all the weak hands before we go into an SOS phase, which would be somewhere around this like 11 to 12 cents. So I got in, I don't know, like somewhere at the 3-cent range. That move up there would be about a 200% move. And then, you know, it's really this red line that I think if it clears that, this will move into the next phase of price discovery. And we're talking the 1618 is in the cards. The reason being is the prior cycle fib pull, we made it exactly to the 1618. You see that right there? Exactly. Tapped it for a couple days. So yeah, if we were to have a repeat of that, that's about 2,000%. It's just exactly what I say. Most of these VC plays around the 236 to the 1618 or into price discovery, it's about a 2,000 to 2,500% move. Could it go higher? Absolutely. Should you be wanting it to go much, much higher? I mean, be careful there because a lot of people are going to get greedy. Even 800%, 700%, these are all crazy numbers. If you were talking to somebody in stocks, they'd be like, what did you just say? You know, but that's what we can pull off in crypto. Now, I brought up this one trend line, major trend line here at the bottom, and it seems that every time we break under it, it's it leads to some pretty devastating pullbacks. Now, I feel that we are mimicking this phase right here. I do not think we'll have this phase here because this was a black swan event C19, all right? I think we're here. We're getting rejected on the outside of this, and we're having this long-term corrective phase to potentially slightly below the 236. And I feel like that's where we're headed right now. So I decided to get a little bit into this project. If we do go lower because of the weakness and what's going on, sure. But if this thing started getting listed on like Coinbase, monster moves. So I would be prepared for that. As at this time, I was only able to get it on Uphold, which isn't my favorite exchange. I have had my issues with them, but it has been seemingly fine so far. But yeah, Uphold, ugh. I tried getting a business exchange with them, like an enterprise account, and they put me through a 2.5-month process and then denied me. But these same people have the audacity to reach out to me for promos, to promote their exchange, to quote unquote work with me. Then we'll WatersAbove, we want to partner with you. Go fuck yourself, dude. You don't even want to allow me to use your thing. What's going on here? You know how many times the people at Uphold have reached out to your homie WatersAbove trying to give me some money so I could promote their mediocre exchange? I will never take a dime, even from good exchanges. Fuck that, man. I'm an artist, bro. I'm not letting any of these slave masters control me. Anyways, I just can't even believe the process I went through. It was 2.5 months. I'm not making this shit up. 2.5 months, and then they finally said, we can't accept your application. Yeah? What? Coinbase, it was like a week. Simple. I'm not against Uphold, though. I'm not going to say fuck Uphold as an exchange, but I do think the sliminess of wanting to offer me some stuff, but then their customer service is poo poo. All right, I needed a little funny break. This is a very fascinating trend line we have. That is this down sloping diagonal trend line. We could be bottoming out at the 732, or sorry, at the 236 very soon because of the interaction that we've had at this level. If you're following my cursor, you'll see. And now we're right here, and we shot up through this real quick. So the fact that we're filling all of this out in between the 382 and 236 is healthy. I think it's needed. And once we could get back above the 0.5 fib, I think this thing's gonna just absolutely blast to the upside, and especially when it gets back above this trend line. Back above this trend line would also be in alignment with around the potentially like July timeframe into August, and then we're not talking too much between there and price discovery. Let's go over to Axie Infinity. By the way, this is like absolute shit coin, but I'm just playing it for the swing opportunity here. We have a 2,000% move to prior all-time highs. Jesus Christ, this is a shit coin. Maybe 1% of my portfolio. Dog doo-doo. I think dog shit is cooler than this, by the way. All right. Deep breaths on this this absolute turd coin. Yeah, so mind-blowing bull run in the past, sure. But now we have the same sort of thing going on with Gala and Sand. And I just kind of like filled my bag with some of these speculative plays for that reason, and because the charts are so similar and I know they move in tandem. So it's a strategic play on my end. I'm just having fun, joking around, but being honest at the same time. This is an absolute shitcoin chart. Hasn't even gotten above the 382 yet. So yeah, once we start getting above that level, the quickness of this moving back to the 618 could be wild, like a real wild move. From where we're trading at right now to this 786 is about a 900% move. Gorgeous. So I'm playing it that way. I do think, and of course, right now you guys are seeing a theme. All of these new plays I have added are just venture capital that I am seeing all this upside potential, and I'm not banking on price discovery. You see, like, I'm not trying to call myself a genius or smart or innovative. I'm just trying to find the opportunities here. Like, I don't feel it makes any sense to purchase Pepe coin when it's already in price discovery. That is dumb to me. The time to get in this shit was all back here. And then sure, it did a 800% move. Well, I could still get that same thing in Axie Infinity, whatever the hell it's called. I could get that same thing with it only getting up to a technical target of the top of the golden pocket. Why would I fuck around with this meme coin, that's only narrative driven, when I could take advantage of the whole alt season swipe all in one, and then I could play it in a much more sophisticated manner, regardless of how bad this chart is. I'm just trying to remove myself from the herd, if you understand what I mean. And this seems like an opportunity in that regard. So that's the pattern you probably noticed on all my venture capital plays here. Only a couple of them were in the vibe of price discovery or very immature charts, and that would be Jupiter would be probably the key. Now we're going to look at H-bar really quickly. H-bar was a massive bull bear trap back and forth. So we have over here this big move to the upside. I called this out, that this is not something to get excited about, and well, yeah, here we are. Never get excited about shit like this. Like, a 73% move in one day is not cool. We returned even lower than where we were trading for the prior 50 days before that. So that's crazy. But what I'm noticing here is a very powerful trend line that could be in play. All of this down here was just to suck all of the, bears into these like shorts, get people thinking this thing's going to go much lower, and then it just skyrocketed. It liquidated probably anyone playing with this. And then all of the retail investors started FOMOing in, probably a lot in this wick to the upside, which had about a 13% correction just into that daily close level, and then the full day closed 20% down. So in that one day, returned 30% of what it had from the prior day. Congratulations. Now we're right back into the same horizontal trading range we've been in for 76 days, just like Bitcoin. So we're still in buying mode on this, and I feel like this is opportunity. I like anything that's around the 382 with this phase. It's great. Fantastic. Now, where we're at into prior cycle is not too much more to go, but H bar has a lot more going for it than something like Axie Infinity. H bar has more partnerships, more things going on. It's actual working technology. It's been in the game for a long time. It will be part of this new system in some function. And yeah, also symbolically, I feel it's astrological in many senses. This like sideways Gemini symbol. I've decoded this one in the past, but I actually feel this has an opportunity to go into price discovery in this cycle. I do. So that would be, I haven't been saying that about the other stuff. Remember, right? I'm very transparent, very clear. I have not been saying that about the other stuff, but H bar, I do. H bar, I think, has the chance at making it into that $2 to $3 range. So fucking 10 cents to where we could potentially go on this. Of course, I'll track it along the way. I'm not like fully decoding and saying it will absolutely go to that price right now. I'm just giving you the feeling that I have. Things like Gala, or the other ones I went over, AMP, Sand, I don't think those are going to go into price discovery. It's less likely. But H bar, I feel Hedera has a chance. So on the technicals of this, anything around the 382 or any move slightly below the 382, so around 9 cents or lower, is an absolute green light buy. Not financial advice. Let's go to Polygon. Oh, wow. Oh, I haven't looked at this shit in a while. This is surprising. All right. Fucking gorgeous trend lines. So we have a very big triangular pattern that's been in play for fucking ever. We had swing high to swing low on the fib pull. We've gotten below the 382, but also this was a kickback. So a kickback is when you break out of a pattern in any direction and then you get sucked right back into the pattern. And look at how close we are to the apex of this triangle and how clean we kicked back into the support. That's brilliant. It's not getting better than this. If this shit breaks down the 236 and lower, that would be very surprising. As a technical analyst looking at this and the timing of everything, like why it went here at this time, and it's holding higher lows. Oh yeah, this is great. This is in a great situation. So we're more than 70, we're like 90%, we're probably 97% through the apex of this pattern. This shit's getting ready to bust. This would have been the technical breakout, but because of Bitcoin doing what it did recently and all this eclipse energy, this should not be shocking to people. We were not ready to go into price discovery yet. We were not ready to go into alt season yet. So I'm glad that I was confident about that, and I continue to share that take on the market against many. And I think everyone should be happy that we are still kind of suppressed in these altcoins, because it's all just been opportunity for you, right? Like at the end of the day. Now, breaking out of this, I mean, I think the next level is $1, and it's clear that it has a very tough time at $1.27, $1.30, we'll call it. For whatever reason, Matic needs to clear $1.30, and then the show's on. But we have this kind of weird double top energy coming in around 3, and this is a project I believe will go into price discovery. So I do think this could hit $10 in this cycle. Feeling pretty confident about that. So yeah, it's it's a 1,300% move from here. It's only a 1,300% move. You know, that's like in crypto we get desensitized. Fucking, it's sad actually. They're like, you couldn't get a 10,000% move. What? Tell that to somebody in the stock market. They'd be like, how many centuries did you have to be in the play for? It's like, no, we did that in 2 months. All right. So yeah, this is great. We're in the middle of this. We're at the very end of this pattern, in kind of the final stages of a pretty big breakout. So I do think by June, July, this thing is going to start moving. I would not sleep on Polygon. It's actually working technology. It's being used by a lot of stuff, unlike a lot of nonsense out there. Let's go to Chainlink. Another reason not to FOMO into stuff at tops, because we've been literally in this same horizontal pattern for 180 days. That's a half a year we've been trading here. It's been a half a year above the 382. I just want to put that into context so you guys can see this is not an alt season. So yeah, we have broken out. Gorgeous breakout. Anything bought between this range was G-Thug. I think I got in around 7 on this cycle, but I've been in Chainlink for a long time. So great to get in at this $7 level. I do suspect 12 is the stronghold. So I don't know if we can get much lower than 12. I do kind of feel if Bitcoin's going to take that next drop to like the low 60s again into 59, maybe 58, or if it wants to go even deeper, you know, to the let's just say if it wants to go to like the 52K level, which we will cover that for sure. But yeah, just keep that in mind. Keep that in mind. I do think that this 12 is going to be strong. So if we were to wick to 10 again, I think that'd be a crazy gift. But 12 should be pretty strong. Anything between 12 and 15 though is buy. I'm not sure if this will really turn into a head and shoulders, but of course it's possible in this market. All right. We still have about 250, 280%. And this was another project that had an incredible last cycle. 30,000%. And the 1618 is sitting at, I'm sure, triple digits. So I don't know if we'll get to a $240 Chainlink, but hey, Chainlink has the Saturnian cube symbolism, the hexagon symbolism, and 240. We're in the year 2024. The 24 code could be possible, and I'll share more on that in a future time frame. But for right now, I would be kind of looking to get a little bit invested in Chainlink if you haven't. Many reasons why, for where they will be in the future economy and how they've already cemented themselves in the conversation of blockchain and where blockchain is going and how it's going to be implemented in our future economy. Now let's go down to Cardano. All right, Cardano on the 236. What more do I have to say? It's a buy opportunity. Anything around the 236 is an opportunity. So yeah, I'm not sure if we'll come and back test this trend line fully because this is just such a strong fib level. Sort of looking like it does very much. A lot of things feel like they're in this mode right now, like this June, July, August kind of vibe. It's like it came earlier. That's what it feels like. Like we're in this backup phase now. This shit. How many days did it take to start like really raging? 70? Watch it be yeah, it's into late June. Okay, there you go, bro. I think that's similar. I think that's very similar. Like this low that we got recently might be the absolute low in early May. We're bottoming out. You see this chop lasted for 50 something days. So from this correction to the end of the chop was June, and then you have after June into July. Boom. Just massive move over the next. So if we take from here to the absolute peak is 400 days. Holy shite. 280 days. Oh yeah, well this aligns very nicely. December, yeah. We haven't gotten here yet. That's going to be fun times for the Wolfpack. So get in now. Get in now while the time is right. It sounds like a fucking infomercial. But yeah, this is great being around the 236. I can't really say too much more on that. I got to also speed up through some of this because we have been at an hour and 18 minutes covering so much today. Theta. We're going to cover Theta, and T-Fuel will be skipped. We're going to cover VeChain and VTho will be skipped because we don't really need to cover those. Where these projects go, those projects will go. So we've made it all the way up above the 0.5 fib, and now we've had a 53% correction into the 382. The 382 is awesome level to get around, so $2 theta is effectively a gift, and where it would be going to retest prior all-time highs is 700%, so I'm feeling really good and confident about that. Perhaps we're just in this kind of moment right now, finishing off the SOS backup phase. So we've already had the SOS, in my opinion. This was it, and this is our backup, and then what comes next is this phase right here, this kind of like explosive move. Perhaps we do get trapped in a little bit of horizontal trading for like 2 months to 3 months, which still would keep us pretty much in alignment. So if we were to finish this whole thing off here from this peak, 300 days, it's early January 2025, perfectly aligned. So yeah, it would be this time a shoot out maybe into like July, August, September, a little bit of a pullback in maybe like the pre-election time frame, because we've seen that in the past too. Over here you see September, October, November in an election year is kind of red, and then we just have this big move to the upside in December. I would assume January is going to be similar if we do have a real alt season. So not too much to say here, but around $2 theta is a gift. So yeah, keep that in mind. I don't know if we could pull back much deeper than this right now because we're in the final moments of the backup phase. Getting above these two lines, so above $5, I do think we'll move very fast above that. And this is a bigger hold in my portfolio, probably the 4% hold. Same thing with VeChain. I think VeChain and Theta make up about 8%, almost 10% of my portfolio together. They're bigger holds for me. Same with Doge. I think I pushed Doge to like 4%. Made just one big chunk investment. All right, so we have VeChain. Still about 700. So VeChain and Theta are very similar in this regard. And also we had this trend line here where we were riding it, and we've also recently back tested it. We are on day 137 of back testing, of being in this 382 range, 382 fib. And now we're back testing this prior peak, which I feel is very healthy because we're like stair stepping up in VeChain. I'm feeling pretty good about this one too in the overall conversation, and considering the history of VeChain before it was VeChain, and I've decoded this one in the past, so you could go check that out. It was in the Gematria Masterclass, which is pretty old, but still it kind of covered the basics of the symbolism and what this was before it was VeChain and all that stuff. And yeah, I'm feeling pretty good about it, especially with the conversation of China in all of this. 3,000% at the end of the backup phase. And where did this effectively go? Let me pull a fib. Oh, I went to the 10 spot. Holy shite. It's the 1618, baby. Yeah, a $1.80 would be mind melting. Yeah, I don't know about that, bro. I'll take it though. Even a $1 VeChain would be a great move. 2,500%. That'd be fantastic. A $1 VeChain. Why not? It made it to almost 30 cents in the last cycle. It'd only be 300% higher, right? Okay, let's move on to Aave. Now, this one has really been chopping sideways. I think a good comparison would be the Chainlink chart. It looks very good, but Chainlink has just made this recent move up that it chopped in for like, I don't even know, 200 something days. This is one of these projects that I've speculated on because of what it did in the last cycle. As you can see, somewhere around 90,000, so a full 100,000% if I took from the absolute lows. Yeah, 150, that's crazy. So just from where it's at now to retesting prior all-time highs is looking at about 600%. And if we were to go into price discovery, although I don't think we can make it up that high, I mean, $1,000 Aave would be big. It would be like it doing what Ethereum did in the past. What did ETH go to, like 1,400? So yeah, that would be a little bit over 10x. So feeling pretty good about Aave in the conversation. It had an incredible performance in the last cycle. compared to where the C19 crash was here to where we're at trading today is 4,500% above, unlike, what was it, Algorand, that was trading right around where the C19 crash was. So clearly holding this would have been a lot smarter in the last cycle than Algo. But yeah, just kind of giving some ideas here, past performance and how it went, and not even banking on price discovery for this, but I do feel like this is one of those that could get into this 8 fib range minimum. So it'd be about $500 Ave, somewhere around 500%. Keep this in mind. I would put this in a smaller percentage of my portfolio, though I wouldn't speculate too much on it. Now we have Theta. No. We have Cosmos, Atom. All right, so we've gotten below the 236. That's a big buy. When we swipe up this high and then come down to that level, that's great. So let me extend these fibs a little bit further for you guys. Yeah, SOS should be in by this time, October, by the next solar eclipse. All right, so now from the C19 area to where we are today, about 300% up. That's pretty decent. This is a small percentage position for me, maybe 1%. I wouldn't speculate too much on this, but again, it's part of this ISO conversation, so I needed to get a little bit of exposure. And where it's trading at now is just still kind of in the same horizontal bear market trading range that's been going on for 2 years. So just an opportunity. I can't really say too much about this. Now we have Polkadot. All right, so we've gotten back to the 236. We're just going to keep it simple here. Anything around the 236 after it has gotten a pretty bullish move up is a buy. And since we've had already a 50% mid-cycle correction, that's exhausted, and I'd assume that anything around this level that we're at right now is a buy, and you don't really need to overanalyze it. And then we're looking at about a 700% move to the upside. I'm not sure if this can go into price discovery, but it's worth having a little bit of exposure. And this has some Saturnian essence too, with the hexagon in the symbolism and the ring of Saturn. Zilica. All right, so with ZIL, we have made very little progress. We're back in the middle of the 236. We have effectively a 50% mid-cycle correction. Yes, higher lows. Yes, some higher highs off of the pivot from summertime of, well, actually, this was a big sign of positivity, but we couldn't clear the 382. So yeah, this is a very lackluster play here. I wouldn't put too much in this right now. I was very heavy in on this in the last cycle, and I remember I caught this spike up. Some people in the community might remember it. I caught this spike up literally on the top, and I screen capped it from Binance. It was a crazy play. But this cycle, I'm not putting too much in it, just because of I saw how this one moved in the last cycle. I saw the other opportunities in other places, and the only way to really have taken advantage of this is to have been very low in the bear market, to get it in very low. And yeah, just the chop and the fact that it never went into price discovery in the last cycle. It barely broke all-time highs, and then it had this shoot to the upside, which got rejected and came all the way back down with another 94% bear market. It's just like, why risk too much by being too exposed to this? So I've changed my stance on it a little bit for this bull run. I'm not bearish on it. I think it'll do well in the alt season, like all other things, but yeah. All right, let's quickly wrap it up with some. I'm gonna get rid of these two because it's really unimportant. We're gonna be covering Bitcoin bi-monthly. Now, this was a very bearish moment right here. Was something I mentioned in the last red pill, the 2-month candle closure coming up, and now we can analyze how that all went down. This structure is what would be considered a gravestone doji, and that's not good. And it's showing that 62,000 is a very, very powerful resistance. I believe specifically $61,200 is the macro resistance that we're dealing with. And now this is not a good sign. And of course, it's a little green right now, but we just opened this up. I don't feel, though, that this was as bearish as some typical analysts might want to look at it, okay? And the reason why is just because this was all happening into like the final days of the month. So all of this buy pressure and this big wick to the upside is a clear sign of selling pressure and profits being taken. But the fact that all of this happened in like the final days, like look, April 30th was a 5% correction. But from April 23rd through April 30th, the last day of the month, we were just on a consistent sell-off. So the timing of this is very important. If the full moon was at a different time of the month, this is something a lot of regular analysts would not realize. If the full moon was like, let's just say in the middle of the month instead of near the end, which it was at like the 22nd, 23rd of April, it would have changed the way that all went down on this bi-monthly candle. It probably would have been a little bit less dramatic, but still at the end of the day, 62K is a clear resistance. Now, we have the 2-week closure coming in. So the bi-weekly closure, if we were to close this red, that's not looking good, but clear as day, all of these tails are being bought up, all of these downside wicks. So we're in a bull run. Everything that gets sold off gets bought right back, and it's probably just to liquidate people. Now on the weekly, we're gonna have to see how this goes because we've had 1, 2, 3, 4 red weekly closes. If we somehow on CME Open get back below 63,000, so if we close anything below 63,000, that will be another red candle closure. It's just a continuation at this point. And we need to address the fact that the week of February 26th and this open into the 4th of March is sitting at this level. So this was a big breakout candle level into the end of February, starting into March. If we were to start closing below this level right here, that would be very, very bearish in the short term. That would signal that we should probably fill out this wick a little bit more with more daily closes below 60K. So nothing like crashing to 40 or anything like that, but just kind of filling out more of this range on the daily, for instance. Filling out more of this range. We have all this horizontal trading and then we just blasted through it and we haven't really filled that out. So if we wanted to make this a very healthy pullback, we would fill out all of this stuff inside of this parallel channel. We'll have to see how that goes. Also, the Bitcoin spot chart is trading at 64,000 right now, but the CME closed at 62.5. That's going to leave a gap. It's going to be a gap to the upside, and that would be a likely corrective phase coming in a little bit later to fill that gap. It's usually the way it goes. It's not like black magic. It's actually quite exoteric at this point, and most analysts know about it. Now let's look at a clean daily chart. Let's pull up some of our moving averages. We have the 55 moving average still above the 8 moving average. That's a wolf cross with downside implied, but we already had the downside. We see these 200s are catching up and they're sitting at about 52K right now, which is perfectly in alignment with this downside previous horizontal trading range that we've spoken about. So if we were to back test that, that would be crazy. That would be a full 30% correction and mimicking exactly what happened in 2017. It would make me very confident that we could just continue to track the 2017 to 2018 bull run and we would be pretty neck and neck with it, which is great. Cuts out the work for us. It makes things a little bit easier to navigate. All right, so that wolf cross is in a bearish posture. Let's look at our EMAs. Our EMAs are also in a bearish posture with the 34 above the 13, but they're all coiling together and Bitcoin's gotten above the 21 EMA. That's a sign of recovery. But we still have lower highs. High, lower high. Still technically a lower high. So until Bitcoin really breaks above 67K, we're just in the continuation of a reversal to the downside. In the micro, of course, because we have high, low, lower high, lower high, lower low, lower high, lower low. That's been going on now for a while. This isn't like make believe, right? This has been going on for a hot minute. We're not on the 4-hour chart right now. We're looking at the daily across the almost 3-month time horizon. So yeah, we're in a corrective phase. RSI has effectively been reset, so that's why it was important to take advantage of that flash crash back on April 13th and everything that happened on May 1st. If you haven't, you should really be considering any upcoming corrections are really a gift, and don't sleep on them. Let's look at the weekly chart. We're below the 8, still below the 8. We came back to the 21 on a wick and tested it. That's gorgeous. So I told you guys about this. Look at the 21 EMA on the weekly. How many weeks I've been saying this? How many weeks? It's crazy. We got it. Tapped down perfectly on it with this bounce. Let's see how this goes. But in the last cycle, we were doing that over and over and over again. You could see that right here. Corrected through the 21, held it as support, corrected on a wick down to the 21, which, by the way, this was around the Bitcoin halving. Corrected into the 21 EMA, held it. 21 EMA held it, 21 EMA on a flash wick held it, and continued. Well, over here, we actually held it as a support on a weekly close. So could that be what happens sometime this month? Like, do we hold this 13 EMA for a couple more weeks and then sink below it into the third or fourth week of the month? We'll have to see. But so far we tapped down on it, and that was your opportunity. So again, any upcoming corrections, please take them seriously. We have Ethereum. I don't really think there's too much to share here on the weekly upcoming. If we have this bearish engulfing, that would be a sign, but we've already backtested the 21 several times. And the 21 you would consider to be, for the Ethereum chart, the same analysis, but you just use the 34 EMA on the weekly. So that would be a tap down to this 2700 level. That would be a gift. Maybe then I might buy back a little bit of my ETH. I'm not sure yet. I'll have to see. So let's go to the daily and see how things are. This is in a full bearish posture. Not full, but in the micro, we have this wolf cross here, clear correction, clear downtrend, high, lower high, or lower low, lower high, lower low, lower high, lower low. But we're holding a clean support here at around $3,000. It's just a psychological level. So, yep, we're trapped here. We're still in the corrective phase. This is all buying opportunities. This is a backup phase, by the way. This was your SOS. This is your backup. This is the best last minute buying opportunity to get. XRP, still holding the horizontal range. I really can't share too much more on this. Yeah, but that flash correction that we got all the way down to 40 something cents on the 13th was crazy. And the buyback since has been pretty damn strong. May 1st, we didn't go as low. So that's looking pretty good. And we could very much be in that like final moments of what we saw back in 2017. And that's where I'm going to wrap up today's podcast, because I talked about this in an update post. It wasn't to give hopium, but it was just to share that once Bitcoin made it through this phase here. Let me go to the Bitcoin chart. Okay. So you see horizontal trading range, we come up right here into back testing the all-time high in this cycle for the first time. We get this rejection. And then right here in this moment, we are about to go into true price discovery, which we haven't yet in our cycle. And right here, we saw XRP do something insane, where it went from trading really low in the price chart all the way down here, just skyrocketed straight to the 1618. So you see off of the 236, it made it all the way up almost 7,000%. Now look at where we're at today. When I zoom out, I'm going to put on the weekly chart. Make sure I have these pulled similarly. Now, if I didn't include this C19 crash, it'd be even more accurate, but that just screws up all the data. Anyways, you see where the 236 is, we're even below that. So everything that we've had below this 86 cent level, that's really been showing us the core resistance that we've had for years now. Going back to when this started to break down, you see right here, this wick. I know all these moving averages are absolutely killing the vibe, sorry. But you see this right here was the start of the bear market for XRP. in regards to the overall big picture. And then we came back up to it and then got rejected again. And now we're still trapped there. Well, that's the 236. So we're even lower, actually. And if we were to make the similar move to what we saw happen last time, straight into the 1618, that would be like a $5 XRP. So that'd be about 900% move. It very much feels like we have to make it through this case, though, and that could be ongoing. So that's exoteric. That's completely driven by, nonsense, spectacle. You guys all know this. And I don't really have too much to update on the price, because the fact that it's only at 53 cents right now, and this is all buying opportunity for XRP. I am not personally planning on adding any more XRP to my portfolio, because at 20%, it's already pretty high. I rather speculate on other things, but it's still higher than all of my other venture capital plays individually. So banking on more of the future and where things are going, not as much on the short term. That's always been my way. I've always been a trader of XRP. It's served me very well as a trader's coin. As an investment, it hasn't been the most lucrative, but I do believe that we're in the final moments of transition into the new economy, and that's really where it's going to play its role. So you guys know this, many of you at least, and I will be catching you all very soon on the next Red Pill. I hope you all enjoyed this. So much was just shared. Long hour and 40-minute podcast. I hope you appreciated all of the words of wisdom and how in-depth we went with this one today. Hope you took notes. I hope you all have a beautiful rest of your weekend in the Matrix. Much love.